In the year 2044, an alien spaceship crash-landed into Earth and started to make life inhospitable for humans. Using this newfound source of technology, the US military started to build an intergalactic colony ship, the Resolute, to give humanity another shot at survival. 2 years later, in 2046, humans are on their way to colonize a planet in the Alpha Centauri system, when they are attacked by aliens and accidentally warped through space into the unknown. Welcome to Lost in Space Season 1 Recap. Following an attack on the Resolute by an alien species, the Robinson family crash lands in their Jupiter 2 vessel on the icy part of an unknown planet, while a woman steals Dr. Smith's identity and also escapes on a Jupiter ship with Dawn, a Resolute crew member. On the planet, the oldest daughter Judy becomes trapped in the freezing water, and the father John and the son Will head out to find a way to save Judy, but they are split apart and Will becomes stuck on a branch in a forest fire. However, he is then confronted by an alien robot. With the fire closing in on them both, Will decides to save the robot and it in turn saves Will. Together, they return to the rest of the family and the robot saves Judy. The Robinson daughters Penny and Judy then continue their efforts to recover their Jupiter, while the robot, Will, John and Maureen the mother go look for other survivors. On the way, they encounter the robot's crashed ship and discover that they are stranded in another galaxy. Through an identical flashback with the robot, Will learns that it was responsible for the attack on the Resolute. Noticing a storm is coming, Penny takes a chariot vehicle to rescue her family, and they find Smith there, who together with Dawn also crashed on the planet, but tells the Robinsons that she's alone. Through a flashback, it is revealed that Smith's name is actually June Harris, and that she stole her sister's identity to get on board the Resolute. However, she is arrested when her sister's boyfriend is killed, but manages to escape during the robot's attack. Back on the planet, the Robinsons purge their ship from indigenous eels who snack on their fuel. And when the ice glacier starts moving, they hurry repairs and take off, only to land somewhere else on the planet. It is then that they pick up radio chatter from the Resolute and other Jupiter ships. The Robinsons make contact with other survivors on the planet, but they are all unable to leave due to the fuel-eating eels, and also cannot contact the Resolute because of the damage to the communication dish. When Judy treats an injured survivor Angela, she tells Judy about the robot's attack on their ship. Judy then confronts Will, and together with Penny, they decide to abandon the robot in a cave. However, Smith follows them and tries persuading the robot to change his allegiance to her. At the survivors' camp, Maureen discovers that the planet will soon become uninhabitable due to a nearby black hole. Together with the others, they decide to build a light tower to communicate with the Resolute. Meanwhile, Dawn confronts Smith about a stolen flare gun and confides to Judy that he doesn't trust her. But a sneaky Smith convinces Judy that Dawn is the one they shouldn't trust. When the light tower is finished, Smith is afraid to go back to the Resolute and disables the camp's defenses, allowing indigenous creatures to destroy the tower. Will then calls the robot for help, but when he arrives in attack mode, the survivors recognize him as the hostile that attacked the Resolute. Realizing the robot could become hostile again, the survivors discuss what to do, but John manages to convince them to let it stay. Later, Dawn, Judy and other survivors travel to Dawn's crashed Jupiter to retrieve its fuel. Once they arrive, Dawn finds out about Smith's true identity and shares it with Judy. At the camp, Angela shoots the robot after being goaded into it by Smith. However, the robot accidentally hurts John, forcing Will to disable it by commanding it to walk off a cliff. While on their way to another survivor ship, Maureen tells John that she changed the results of Will's admission test to get him on board the Resolute. Meanwhile, Don and his group face a dilemma when the fuel tanker flips and one of the survivors gets stuck underneath it. They decide to save him and lose much of the fuel, but come to realize they made the wrong choice when he eventually dies. At the cliff, Smith finds the robot and takes it to the Jupiter 2, where she manages to revive him. When one of the survivors, Victor, learns of the planet soon becoming uninhabitable, he decides to use the fuel to launch his Jupiter and save his family. However, John manages to sneak on board Victor's Jupiter 4 and shuts down the ship. Maureen and John then tell the rest of the survivors about the soon coming radiation, with Maureen devising a plan to remove all unnecessary weight from the Jupiter 4 so that the ship can launch with minimal fuel. Later, Judy tells Marine about Smith's identity, and Marine locks her up. But when the Jupiter 4 is forced to leave earlier with Don and John piloting, Smith convinces Will to set her free, and she knocks out Marine just when John needed Marine to guide them. It is then that the Jupiter 4 blows up. Smith then holds Marine captive and takes her to the robot's ship, promising Marine to help her and her children if she helps her with the alien ship. Meanwhile, Will discovers that the rocks he found in the cave are in fact biomass that can be used as fuel for the Jupiters, leading to the survivors gathering as much as they can. Judy later finds her mother and Smith, but comes to realize that the reactivated robot now listens to Smith. Through flashbacks, it is revealed that the Christmas star was an alien spaceship that crashed into Earth, with the humans using the alien ship's engine to build the Resolute, causing the robot to attack the colony ship to retrieve its engine. In the present, Will finds out that John and Don are alive, but fails to gain the robot on his side. With limited time left, the Robinsons, Smith, and the robot board the Jupiter 2 in order to save John and go back to the Resolute. Realizing that Smith has too much power, Marine tries spacing the robot in the cargo bay, but then a second alien robot arrives and attacks Will. However, the robot saves Will and sacrifices himself by attacking the hostile alien into space. When they are then en route to the Resolute, the alien engine that Smith had taken from the robot's ship takes over Jupiter 2 and teleports them to another dangerous star system, leaving them lost in space. Thank you guys for watching this video. If you liked it and want to stay up to date on Lost in Space or other TV series, subscribe to the channel for an influx of future videos. I have also already recapped many series, from Star Trek to Better Call Saul, so if you are interested in that, you can watch those already on this channel. I will see you on the next recap.